This came up, and I really, really find this interesting. And the reason why I say that is, what is your take on this? Would Kyle Shanahan have won last year on the Eagles?
Okay. I get the Eagles are extremely dominant. That defensive line, I agree with what everyone says. They won the game. Okay. I get it. But Shanahan has struggled against the Chiefs. That's a fact. It's happened in 2 Super Bowls. He struggles. Now, if you put him on that roster, the thing I don't like about Kyle Shanahan is he struggles to get players open downfield. And I don't know if it's because he's nervous of throwing a deep ball or because he's been lacking the talent, which is a fair argument to make. He doesn't have the greatest deep threat at receiver. But that was a big deal in the Eagles winning Super Bowl as well. Like, Jalen Hurts throws a nice deep ball. A.J. Brown's a sick deep threat along with Devontae Smith. So now, if you gave Shanahan those players, I don't know if the results would be the same. I don't know. I honestly don't know. But if you're talking about the defensive side of the ball, my argument is Kyle Shanahan had a defensive line with Dee Ford, DeForest Buckner, Eric Armstead, and Nick Bosa against the same Chiefs. Not the same roster, but the Chiefs.
Tyreek Hill wasn't on that team, but keep going.
He lost. Okay. So that's a very similar front.
One thing we know about me is that I'm a defensive guy. I played professional football. I played on the defensive side of the ball. I was a safety. If you're going to honestly tell me that 31 other coaches, I'm going right there this aggressive, don't win that Super Bowl when that D-line is playing like that, they should not be in the NFL. So it's a sad argument to come tell me that Shanahan would not have won on the Eagles last year. Now, if you want to talk about the lead up to the Super Bowl, is a whole nother discussion, because getting to the Super Bowl is a one thing. And maybe he doesn't get to the Super Bowl. That's an argument. Mm-hmm. But if you're going to convince me that Kyle Shanahan doesn't win that Super Bowl the way that D-line played, it starts to, it's pretty silly. It becomes a silly argument.
If I pull up past 49er Super Bowls, we're up 10 against the Chiefs in the second half.
We've never had a defense play at that level.
Listen, man, if I pull up a past Super Bowl, let me get to my point, where the 49ers have been up double digits in the second half, and I were to tell you Shanahan's going to find a way, not just lose the game. He's going to find a way to lose the game. You would have called me crazy. But guess what? Shanahan not only gives up a 10-point lead, but goes into overtime, and he found a way to lose that game.
He definitely screwed up.
So he can find a way to lose the game, even with that Eagles roster. Regardless of how dominant they're playing, Shanahan can find a way to lose the game. That's what he does.
Okay, no, that's not true. Shanahan doesn't find a way to lose a game. He just doesn't find a way to win a game. That's his issue. Is in the fourth quarter, Shanahan takes off the pedal. And that's been something that's haunted him all the way back to the Atlanta Falcons. When you have a team down and out, you need to put them right out. And he seems to think the clock is going to do it for him, but it doesn't. Mm-hmm. And he loses. So the 49ers win the Super Bowl if you put that Eagles defense on the 49ers and let's just put Shanahan on the Eagles. If Shanahan is on the Eagles and his defense is getting turnovers in the red zone and getting pick sixes to the house like the Eagles did, and constantly putting Patrick Mahomes under pressure and making Patrick Mahomes look everything but like Patrick Mahomes. He looked like any quarterback you want to name him that's trash in the league. He looked like trash. Now, Patrick Mahomes is not trash. Make no mistake about it. Defense will make you look bad if they can get pressure on you with rushing 4. If there's nothing crazy about the scheme was simple. It was a 4-man rush. There was no disguise of who's coming. It was the same 4. So as an O-line, you couldn't ask anything easier. That's what the 49ers did all year, and they had no success because they didn't have the right players for it, and the coach sucked, to be honest, on defense. So if I can rush 4 and I'm a defensive coordinator and I can do whatever I want behind that because I'm getting crazy pressure, I'm going to shut you down, okay? And NFL coaches will do the same, whether it's the D coordinator in Philly or another D coordinator. If you can rush 4 all day and get pressure, there's no reason to blitz. There's no reason to disguise who's coming. They're dominating. And that's what happened. Kyle Shanahan could do that too. Any coach could do that. But getting to the Super Bowl is another argument. But if you're going to give me that performance, the outcome is going to be the same.
Hey, Nick Sirianni has his hands in the defense a lot more than Kyle Shanahan does. Shanahan only puts his 2 cents in when the defense is literally, or the D coordinator is literally just giving up the game. So, listen, Kyle Shanahan is not a head coach. Okay, so you can't. I'm sorry. History tells us you can't guarantee Shanahan to win any big game. You cannot. He's
Ever
had
since,
roster style. You're talking like he
no,
hasn't
he's
had
had
any roster.
rosters. There's no argument there.
He's had rosters better than Nick Sirianni has ever seen up until last year. That's
That's
true.
not true. No, Nick
Last
Sirianni
year,
had a pretty damn good roster the year they lost as well.
yeah, he did. Okay, 2 years. Shanahan's had him for how many years? 5.
That's not all I'm saying is the dominance of that defense in that game.
Okay,
It doesn't matter who's coaching, you're winning that game.
that's not true. I'll tell you
Yes,
what. Okay,
it
I'll
is
tell you
true.
why. I'll tell you why. We always talk about how Robert Saleh is a massive players coach, correct? And he makes every player around him play better, correct? Nick Sirianni is very similar to that. Nick Sirianni is a players coach. The players play for him. Shanahan does not give.
There's been a lot of talk about Nick Sirianni and his players not playing for him, not liking him. There
was talk the one last year because they fell off. That's the only time we heard that talk. Up until last year when they fell off a cliff, we did not hear that talk, and we didn't hear it all last year. So it's easy to kick a guy while he's down, but the fact is he is a player's coach. The guy's going psycho on the sidelines. The players love it. That's what Robert Saleh does. Shanahan is a robot with his head down. I don't think you could have a conversation with Shanahan on the sideline unless he walks up to you and approaches you. Okay, so that's not a coach that defensive players are dying to get on the field and get a sack for.
No, the defensive players on San Francisco 49ers are playing for the DC. And when you have a trash DC like we did last year, that's the outcome.
Correct. But the defense in Philadelphia is playing for Nick Sirianni. A part of it.
There's no argument that when a coordinator is the head coach, it affects the team, in my opinion. I've always said that. I don't agree with the coordinator being the head coach unless it's a defensive coordinator. But when it's the offensive coordinator being the head coach, it's never good because they're diving into the playbook while the defense is on the field. They have no input on game management. They're just so focused on calling their next offensive play. Whereas the D coordinator is constantly reacting to an OC's personnel. So that determines what he's calling. So he can't predetermine what he's going to play. He needs to play based off the offensive coordinator. So it's a little bit different. I just want to talk about Rick Diaz here. Rick Diaz says, of course, Kyle is screwing up all the time in the regular season. I do not trust the man. Listen, I will say this. I've been a fan of the 49ers since 1990, since I was 5 years old. And I was always watching guys like Steve Young, Jerry Rice, T.O. on offense. And on defense, I was watching a bunch of studs and whatever. But getting to the Super Bowl was an issue after Steve Young. And we never got there until Kaepernick came and we got that year there. But one thing I'll say about Kyle Shanahan. With Kyle Shanahan as your head coach, you will never have a team that is straight garbage. You'll never have a team that doesn't go to the playoffs unless, listen, it just happened this year and it happened a couple times when he first took over. But it happened last year. Let's be honest. Injuries were an issue, a massive issue. But the defensive coordinator was not an NFL coach. And that's where Shanahan messed up. He hired that guy based off friendship, is from what I understand.
Yeah.
So Shanahan has gotten us to where? An NFC championship, and you lost your quarterback. 2 Super Bowls. Another NFC championship that he lost to the Rams. So how many coaches in the league have that kind of success? Not very many. Now, sure, he had the roster. I'm not going to dispute that. The Niners have had great rosters. There's no argument there. But not a lot of coaches can do what Kyle Shanahan is doing. And it's because, and keep in mind, there's no elite quarterback on this run. At any of these runs, there's been no elite quarterback. So that tells you the skill level of Kyle Shanahan and how great his plays are, especially his run game. We beat the Green Bay Packers with 9 runs.
Yeah. Listen, I think Shanahan's a huge advantage. Having Shanahan is a huge advantage. Okay. I'm not saying fire the guy. I'm not his biggest fan, but I'm not a hater either. Shanahan helps you win games. It's a fact. But is Shanahan a head coach? No. I think he plays a part in creating a great roster. So you could give him some credit for that. just like how you give John Lynch a lot of credit for that. So Shanahan gets credit for that. He scouts these players as well. He's picked great players too. That he's had a hand in picking great players in the draft. But to say Shanahan would have just won a Super Bowl, I think we need to.
I don't say that he would have got there because I don't know that. I'm just saying if the defense played the same way they did that game,
I don't think they would have. I agree. Okay, listen, I agree. It's really easy to win a game without the defense playing. My main argument.
That's my argument.
I agree. I just don't think they would have.
If Robert Saleh was the coach,
and if Robert Saleh was the coach, then I believe
Shanahan's the head coach, and Saleh's okay. Never mind that. Shanahan's the head coach. Same DC.
Same DC as Eagles.
Yes, Vic Fangio.
Okay, Vic Fangio, he's not a player's coach either. Vic Fangio, I don't think he's a good DC at all. I think he used to be back when the NFL was basic.
He wasn't a good DC then. I'll tell you why I say that. He's been the same guy. He rushes four, and his front four is high talented players like Alden Smith. When he was coaching the Niners,
right?
We had Alden Smith, Justin Smith, Ray McDonald, and Ahmed Brooks. These guys make a DC look really good if you're only going to rush four and show four. I don't believe in any scheme where you should show four and rush four every single play. You're making life easy on an offensive coordinator. It's too easy.
I agree. So, listen, I don't think he's a great DC. I don't. And he's also not a player's coach. That's why you have to give a lot of that credit to Nick Sirianni. As much as I dislike Nick Sirianni, because I think he's cocky as hell for no reason, he is a player's coach. That's a fact. He lights the match the same way that Robert Saleh is going to hopefully light a match for us this year. That's a big thing in football, man. It's 100%. A big thing.
No, I won't dispute that. Now, Ryan here, Ken here says, sorry if I mispronounced that. No coach is perfect. They all make mistakes. We can't be quick to fire dudes like that. Bad organizations. The coaches need the chance to rebuild and develop new players. So I think me personally, it's way more than that. Kyle Shanahan has proven himself to be a head coach in this league. Mm-hmm. I mean, the success speaks for itself. Ultimately, the ultimate success is winning the Super Bowl, and he's yet to do that. Can you legitimately say that Kyle Shanahan can't win a Super Bowl? I mean, come on, man. He's been going against the best quarterback every time he's gone there. And that's a shitty deal. But like you said, Nick Sirianni won. But there is a big but. That defense played unbelievable, and that's a big reason why the Eagles won.
Yeah. Okay. The reason I'm against firing Kyle Shanahan, and I've been on and off about this, but when you think about it, if you fire Kyle Shanahan, that means you're saying there's 32 coaches in the world that are better than him at head coach. Which I disagree with. There's not. So Kyle Shanahan is a head coach in the NFL. Yeah. The question is, how much of the shit could you put up with? You know what I mean? How many great rosters is he gonna just make disappear? Like, we've had some sick rosters, dude. But guess what? No one's gonna remember them because we never won a Super Bowl with them. It means nothing at the end of the day. You don't win a Super Bowl. You remember the bad parts. You remember the parts where Shanahan gave up the Super Bowl. You remember the parts where he didn't do enough or a certain player didn't do enough. It's not always on Kyle Shanahan, but he didn't get it done.
To me, I'm not willing to let go of Kyle Shanahan because the reality is, as a 49er fan, when you tune in and they're constantly going far in the playoffs, and sure, it hasn't resulted in a ring yet, but that success is not by fluke. It's not by mistake. Kyle Shanahan has a big hand in that. Now, as a guy that has a defensive background, one thing that always stands out to me when you're watching Kyle Shanahan really clicking is that you cannot guarantee what he's going to do next. The plays are all over the field. It's spread out. The only thing that the 49ers have lacked is the 9-ball. And that's something that if we could get a player to help us on the 9-ball, now his offense is fully spread over the field. You got screens. You got play action. If you add the 9-ball, now the run game is as dominant as it's always been. You add all those dimensions, it makes it very hard on a defensive coordinator to scheme them up and stop them. And this best scheme that I've seen to do against the San Francisco 49ers is to play man and bring pressure. And the reason why I say that is because we do not have the 9-ball receiver. And Brock Purdy is a shorter quarterback. And when there's pressure in your face, it affects you. And that's why you blitz the A gap against the Brock Purdy. You need him to get his eyes off of downfield and on you, and the feet start running. And that's when his ability to buy time and stuff needs to become a factor. And if he's unable to do it, the 49ers start to look pretty bad.
Right. So Ahmed YYC says, do you think Shanahan's offensive scheme is the problem, or is it more personnel not executing? Now, you were just talking about the 9-ball. The 9-ball is a problem where the 49ers haven't had an elite quarterback. So it's not just receivers. There's receiver problems there. We don't have receivers that are great at 9-balls. I think Ayuk's capable 100%, but he's not a complete deep threat. But at the end of the day, we also have never had an elite quarterback, and that hurts the 9-ball too. Like Brock Purdy doesn't have a strong arm like Jalen Hurts does, so he's not going to throw nice in the 9-ball that Jalen Hurts can. So it's a mixture of receiver, quarterback, and a mixture of it's not Kyle Shanahan's offensive scheme. It's maybe Kyle Shanahan knows the limitations of his players, and that's why we don't try as much as other teams.
I just want to respond to this because this is kind of what I was saying about Kyle Shanahan. I don't think the league is caught up to Kyle Shanahan. I think Kyle Shanahan was his own worst enemy this year. And the reason why I say that is because Kyle Shanahan started to lean on Brock Purdy a little too much. And he went away from what he's good at. And what he's good at is a great run game with a play action off of it. Instead, we went to a 5-7 step drop team and asking the quarterback who's not elite to try to be elite. And Brock Purdy's a good quarterback in this league. Make no mistake about it. He's a very effective quarterback. But under the circumstances of where he is on a 1 or a 2 read type of play, do not ask him to go to his 3rd read. And actually, his 1st read is not a type of play where the guy's wide open either. Now, the 49ers scheme up so many things where you get a George Kittle underneath who's uncovered, and he gets his room to get his yak. Same with Debo at the time. And Brandon Ayuk would win his one-on-ones, stuff like that. Now, this past season, what you saw was there was no Brandon Ayuk. Debo Samuel was 20 pounds overweight, unable to get open. And Brock Purdy was dropping back. And this was like true one-on-one coverage. Occasionally, the Niners would get some zones and he would find the zone and he would hit it. He's pretty good at that. That's probably his best attribute. But you just don't want to lean on a quarterback that's not elite. Shanahan made the mistake of doing that this year. He needs to go back to his creativity. There's one game that will always stick out in my mind of how clever Kyle Shanahan is. And if you guys don't know this game, if you don't remember it, just go watch the highlights. It's a game in New Orleans back in 2019. And I was at that game, and that was the game of the year.
100%.
And he drew up plays that the NFL should still be talking about. That's how good it was. And we just don't look like that anymore. And it's sure the players were fantastic all around him at that time. And it was Jimmy G. But Jimmy G looked like, top 5 quarterback in the league in that game. He's making throws, but the reality is he was making life easy on him. And 100%. You can make him look way better than he actually is.
Yeah. Let's talk about this. Is there a possibility, because we just seen Shanahan's creativity completely fall off the cliff last year, like just completely fall off the cliff. Is it a possibility that this was all just an elaborate plan to find out how good Brock Purdy really is? Like, let's put the game on Brock Purdy's shoulders and let's see what he can do. Because we know what he can do with Kyle Shanahan. We know what a lot of quarterbacks would be able to do with Kyle Shanahan. Let's find out what Brock Purdy can't do without Kyle Shanahan. Let's see what Brock Purdy would look like in a Cleveland Brown offense. Or, like honestly, is that a possibility? I don't think Shanahan turned stupid overnight.
No.